You know, the work that the practitioners and ministers have committed their life to is about transforming consciousness. And it's because of this work, truly, that I'm where I am today, that in these studies, even in the times of deepest sorrow and grief, we can know that life is good. And so my wish and my hope and my invitation for us this morning is to be willing to transform our consciousness now, because I believe if we're breathing, we still have work to do here on this planet. If we're alive, it's not saying that anymore, but I want just everyone to be able to say, I lived, and mean it, that you put your fullness into life and that you made conscious choices. I found this definition about transforming consciousness, and I want to read it to you. Consciousness is awareness, and transforming consciousness means to develop a higher awareness of ourselves, of others, and the world around us. It's about making wiser, more loving, and empowered choices for the benefit of all. So when we can be aware that the choices we make are for our good, for the good of others, and the good of everyone. When we can take a spiritual alternative to what's ever in front of us. And it goes, and I just added here that I believe this is the work of our lives. I believe it's the work of our lives to be in the business of transforming consciousness. And I know because I took the same vows that you did as a practitioner. When it was 23 years ago and we lost our daughter, I could still say life is good. I could still know there was something great going on. Didn't mean I didn't have the depth of grief and pain, but I knew without a question that God is good, life is good, that the universe is for us. I knew because I had committed to transforming my consciousness to the best of my ability as a human being, to keep it up-leveled. And it pulled me through and beyond. Because you see, if we choose not to plug into the power of the world, which we can call the external power, where we try to manipulate and control and do things out here, because when we do that, we get into the drama and the conflict, and it can end up in violence or whatever. That out there, we're always pushing things around or pulling things or the push and pull of life. But when we can really plug our humanness into our spiritual essence, our truth, that's authentic power. Then no matter what's going on here, even as painful as it might be and often is, we know there's something more. There's some good at work. It's when we take the power, we use our human mind, but we take the power out of our human mind to put it into our divine mind, and we co-create with Spirit. It's easy to say, oh, God is perfect. God created the universe, infinite intelligence, creative potential, whatever you want to call that energy and essence. Isn't it easy to say that's perfect and good and whole and complete? It's harder to accept that about ourselves, because I don't know about you, but I'm not always perfect. I guess I am in some way, but there's something perfect in me always. And the perfection comes from being able to learn and grow from our experiences, whatever they might be, to learn and grow from what's going on. There's a great responsibility when we come here to this world. There's a great responsibility because we come here to learn and grow and evolve. But the human mind, if we put our power here, the human mind has a huge tendency to negate the goodness that we are. Do you know what I mean? We do that. And we get these negative thought patterns. And these negative thought patterns pull us into a lower energy expression of ourselves. But if you and I can recognize that we are part of this divine mind and we have a human mind, to help us navigate, but put the divine mind in the driver's seat. The goodness. When Reverend Bill was reading about love this morning, to know if we're using our authentic power and our divine mind. I'll tell you, no matter what's going on, the destination is always love. There's never anything different, because God is love. And if we're focused and plugged into at that, no matter what's going on, there's where we're going, to that place called love. And so we need to just become aware of where we are and where we're going. How many of you really want to keep transforming your mind? Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's not something new. New thought doesn't mean, oh, this is a brand new idea. It means we become new with our new thoughts. New thoughts create new lives, new experiences for us. This idea of using our mind for good is very, 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 very old. Asclepius, the god of ancient Greek religion and mythology, was the god of medicine and healing. And Asclepius, you say, I say. But Asclepius, oh, I'm sorry, Chip, I'm not supposed to go down here, but I forgot. But anyway, Asclepius, in ancient times, he did not heal by medicine. He healed by the power of the divine mind. Is that a new thought? Well, and his priests, which were his healers, were not physicians. They were profound thinkers. And Asclepius trained his priests with the most fundamental thing he knew could heal. And that was for men and women to think holy thoughts. To think holy thoughts. The spiritual alternative to whatever is going on, to think holy thoughts, because that heals. He also knew that the harmony and rhythm of dance and music and poetry was healing, and the contemplation of beauty. Well, I'll tell you what I found. If you're plugged into love, you can see beauty and love everywhere. It works. That's the power that we have. So we're human. We're not going to be there all the time, at least not in my experience. Ernest Holmes said, when we have a negative thought or idea, we need to neutralize it or erase it. Neutralize or erase it by not giving the negativity any power. We can think something negative, but we don't have to give it power. We can swear at someone on the freeway or somewhere else and just back away from it. We don't have to give it any power. Just because we have a negative thought or speak a negative word, we don't have to give it any power. It's about neutralizing that negativity. But we can't neutralize it if we're not aware. Would you agree with me? Consciousness is about awareness. We had a beautiful speaker, thank you, Reverend Wendy, at our Spiritual Business Network, Reverend Ajane. Went to school with Reverend Wendy at the Interfaith Seminary. And he is he's a college professor, a minister, and he's also a coach for spiritual intelligence. And it's a quite involved program. It's beautiful. He was just a beautiful speaker, a beautiful man. And he was taught under Cindy Wigglesworth. She's a brilliant woman. I saw her YouTube, brilliant. She's an expert in the field of spiritual intelligence. And she defines spiritual intelligence as the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion and maintaining inner peace and outer balance regardless of the situation. Wow. Spiritual intelligence, being plugged in to something more. Isn't that what we'd like? To be able to be plugged in to something more. You know, the problem comes when we don't want to be responsible for our lives. We just get a little lazy, a little tired sometimes. We've all been there. You know, I've shared this story before of Saint St. Augustine, who was a very profound leader in the Christian movement, but he wrote a 13-volume series of books called Confessions about his lusty, sinful youth. And he said, this was a time when he was living with a woman who had his child, and he had a male friend that was much more than a friend. And he knew that he was being lustful and what he called sinful, although we don't believe in sin. And he said, God, grant me chastity and continence, self-mastery, just not yet. All of you laughing have been there. I know. We don't want it right away. All these wonderful ideas, but I'll tell you, the responsibility is for us to hold the vision, to hold the vantage point that we want to attain is that place of love, harmony, peace, caring, beauty, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, which we'll hear more about in a minute. But we want to hold that for ourselves. We want to hold that and know that that's our vision. So I have a little shorter time to speak today because of the beautiful ceremony. So I'm going to close with something that Reverend Ajane did at our Spiritual Business Network, and we will have him come back because this spiritual intelligence thing is where it's just a beautiful opportunity. But he had us during this practice. It was really self-reflective. We wrote down our bucket list. Don't you love writing the bucket list? All the things you want to do. Ooh, Italy, Greece, all these things. Again, I do this. But it's very exciting. You're all filled with excitement. And then, good, we said, be with that, feel it. And he said, now, I want you to flip it and ask, what can I do for life? What can I do for life before I'm gone? What can I do to make a difference? And let me tell you, it might have been excitement to write down the wonderful things we want to do in this physical world. And they're all great and good, not denying that at all. But to ask, what can I do for the good of life, is when the God bumps just come up, because it taps into our purpose. It taps into our wholeness and our reason. It gives us the spiritual alternative. It's a both and situation. It's not an either or. Joseph Campbell said, when we quit thinking primarily about ourselves and our own preservation, we undergo a truly heroic transformation of consciousness. So I mentioned how important it is to be aware. So instead of being out there doing in the world, it's about pulling back and what are my emotions right now? What am I feeling and what am I thinking? To be aware. And if the feeling comes up negative or painful, harmonize it with love. Harmonize it with love. Because love is the neutralizer. Harmonize, it doesn't mean the pain will go away, but it means there's a greater understanding. Take that spiritual alternative. When we are neutralized and activated in love, the outcome of that is we can see the beauty and the love in others. We can truly make this world a better place. So my wish for each of us is that today when you leave, you can say, I lived fully because I made the conscious choices to make this world a better place. And not only can you say, I lived, I have loved fully. Just say that after me. I have loved fully. I love myself. I love others. And stop it if you think of most others. Harmonize, neutralize that with love. I love others. And I love this beautiful world in which we live. And let's just seal that and release it to the God that only knows to say yes, yes, yes by saying, and so it is. I bless you all for being here today, being part of the Transforming Consciousness, and being part of the love we share together. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.